upon us, we are Usana.
Ugh, they're in a mood. We've all said it, and had it said about us. But what is in a mood? It may not feel like it, but good or bad, your mood is actually there to protect you. It can make you address questions like, have I been sleeping enough? Getting the right nutrition? Or even, shouldn't there be more life in my work-life balance? But our emotions are far from perfect. And the stress of our modern lives can easily send them into overdrive, creating bad moods that can be difficult to snap out of. Left unchecked, the moods that are supposed to protect us can eventually become damaging, disrupting your digestive system, causing changes to your DNA expression. They can even change the size and structure of your brain, leaving you less resilient to stress in the long run. But what can you do to manage a feeling? That is the question that led to Usana's mood and relaxation category. Your brain, your body, and even the bacteria in your belly work together to enhance your resilience to stressful events. And our scientists have discovered ways to tap into these processes. If you listen to your emotions, we can help you respond mindfully so you can naturally experience better days full of calm and clarity. Some of our products are about changing your habits, lifestyle practices, and supplements that work best when you use them every day. Others are designed for occasional stress and uncertainty to help you keep your sleep schedule while traveling or relax after a rough day. All of them are rooted in science, from how nutrients can signal your cells to how a scent or physical action can create a chemical response in your body. Stress is normal. It's how you manage that stress that can make all the difference. Let us help you manage it better. The mood and relaxation category, only from Usana.
Good morning, magandang umaga, and maayong buntag to all of our participants for this session sa ating Your Health and Usana. So I'd like to welcome everyone dito sa ating session. And of course, I am Jay Susete, one of the corporate pharmacists for Usana Philippines, based here in Cebu. And for this morning, we're going to be learning more from our scientists from our home office in Salt Lake City. So that's why we are here this morning. But before we begin, let me know where you are currently at. Using the chat box, type in your location so we can give you a proper welcome for today's training. And of course, for those of you who are tuning in via Zoom, type in your location in our chat box. And for those who are tuning in via Facebook Live, you can also type in your location in the comments section. So thank you very much for the very prompt responses. So we have participants all the way from North Caloocan. We have Ma'am Joyce, who's currently at the Enterprise Center. We also have our participants all the way from Mindanao, from Cagayan de Oro. We also have from Canada. So we're going international at this very moment. And of course, we have from Cebu and from Mandaluyong as well. We also have representatives from Iloilo, from Taguig, from Tacloban, from Metro Manila, from Quezon City, from Valencia City, Bukidnon, from Isulan, from Naga City, from Paco, Manila. Ayan. So we are all over the Philippines, including na dito, kasama Pagadian, Parañaque, and all the way from Bulacan. So welcome to everyone who are tuning in here in Zoom and those who are also tuning in via Facebook Live. So welcome sa ating session with Your Health and Usana. And for this morning, we have invited a guest speaker who is coming from the home office. For our speaker this morning, we have invited the Senior Manager of Health and Science Education, Austin Winegar. So Austin is a graduate from the University of Utah with a bachelor's degree in biology. He joined Usana's research and development team in 2011. And in addition to being part of the product development process, Austin plays a key role in AskTheScientist.com. And he is the one currently managing it. When not at work, Austin enjoys mountain biking, skiing, hiking, and weightlifting. So please help me welcome Usana Philippines. Let's give a warm Filipino welcome to our Senior Manager of Health and Science Education, Austin Winegar. Hello, Austin. Good morning from our side of the world, and I think it's good evening to your side of the world.
Yeah, it's winding down a little bit here. Thanks for having me today. Let me share my screen, and I guess we'll get started here, kind of walk everybody through what we've got planned today. I assume that's working for you. Morning, everybody. So you heard a little bit of an introduction about me. I'm part of Usana's product development team, and we've got a few of us in addition to product development. We spend a lot of time helping educate some of our customers like you about the products, about nutrition, health, wellness, kind of everything that we are doing as part of the research and development team. So that's what I'll be doing today, is sharing some of those things that we've done in the past, and particularly the last few years. I'm going to be going through some research studies on skincare, and then as well as some overall health and wellness on the skin, hair, and nails. So this will primarily be focused on skin. I think you saw a presentation like this about 2 months ago, for those of you who were there, very similar. So some of the slides are the same, but I'll be focusing on a few different parts. For those of you who weren't there, the skin, hair, and nails are all part of the same body system. It's called the integumentary system. And the reason they're all part of that system is they all share a lot of similarities. They're made out of keratin, a lot of these structures. The keratin in hair is just like what you'd find in fingernails, toenails. This protein is also what makes hair and nails so tough and strong. It's kind of an essential building block. The hair and the nails both grow out of the skin. So that's kind of where they get the link there, and why they share some of those building blocks. The nails don't come from somewhere, a different organ or anything. They're actually just growing right out of the skin there. And they push through those outside layers and onto the surface of your body. Skin cells called tissue is the hypodermis, and the dermis, you have growing skin cells that are eventually pushed outward to the epidermis, which is those outside layers of the skin that are drier. They flake off and fall off all the time as we're living. And this process takes about a month. And so as you go through these different layers, you've got about 20 total layers that it goes through to create that entire month-long process, from starting at the bottom of the epidermis, where the skin cells are kind of these square, blocky shapes that are full of keratin. And as they push upward and upward, a lot of the moisture and sometimes there's oils and things in there squeeze out of the cells, and they flatten and turn really, really thin. In total, you produce about 3.5 kilograms of skin cells, dried skin cells that flake off your body every single year. So that's kind of an interesting little thing. And this dust ends up all around your house. So that's kind of why you want to dust your house. You would want to vacuum and clean up, as you end up with skin cells all around the house and just everywhere you're living. And that's kind of how you can imagine you're used to seeing your hair grow. You're used to seeing your fingernails grow. Well, your hair does the same, or your skin does a lot of the same thing. Kind of to touch on the hair really quickly, so the hair also has its own life cycle. It starts from the follicle, and it's supplied with blood and nutrients at the very bottom of that follicle. And it kind of, if you follow this around, it's pushed up, the cells stack on top of each other one by one to form the hair cells, or the hairs that you're familiar with. So the portion of the hair found in the dermis is called the follicle. And the visible strand of hair that exits the epidermis is called the shaft of the hair. And the hair follows and grows out of these tunnels of dermal tissue, and they push out little by little as they go through this process. When the cells at the base of the hair follicle die, they leave behind a tough protein that we've talked about already called keratin. This process is called keratinization, and the new cells are developed at the very bottom of this bulb. They don't grow throughout the shaft. They don't grow at your level of the outside layer of the skin, but they grow at the very bottom of the follicle. And the keratinization is what builds up the hair cells step by step to create the long hairs that you're familiar with. People often refer to hair as being dead, and this is true of the strands of the hair that you can see and touch and are familiar with. However, the hair on your head is in fact the protein from dead cells that originated in the hair follicle. And that follicle itself is actually alive, which is why it's painful if you were to pull out your hair and tug on it, but not painful to cut your hair, for example, as it's really those cells within the shaft that are alive. Nails, kind of similarly, are also comprised of keratin. The structural protein is produced in large quantities at the nail bed, and the rate of skin cell turnover is especially high compared to other parts of the body throughout the nails, as well as the hair and the skin, because keratin is always being replenished. The keratin in your nails originates in the stratum corneum and is assembled at the nail matrix. Your nails grow from the nail matrix at the base of the nail bed to the ends of your fingertips. The nail plate covers the nail bed and protects delicate skin and blood vessels underneath. This same nail plate stays tightly bound to the nail bed throughout all of the ridges and structure of the nail, because the nail isn't completely smooth, so it kind of follows that tightly and clings onto your nail, both in the bed or the matrix where it's growing, but also throughout the whole process, which is why it holds onto your nails so tightly as you grow out your nails over time. Part of the reason for this is to help prevent dirt, germs, microbes from growing underneath the nails, where they could potentially get infected and cause different damage and problems within your skin. When you're looking at kind of taking care of all of these, there's a few particular nutrients that are most important. You've got the A vitamin or B vitamins, you've got vitamin A. Vitamin C is especially important for collagen synthesis. It's one of the primary fuels that helps build up the elasticity within your skin. You also need protein to build all of these, and omega-3s. A few other nutrients you're going to be familiar with. So you need iron in your diet to keep blood flowing, and blood flow is especially important for the health hair follicles. Iron can be best found in red meats, spinach, fortified grains, and cereals. Vitamin C, as I mentioned, is important for collagen synthesis. You'll find vitamin C in citrus fruits like oranges. You'll also find it in berries, peppers, whether it's large peppers or small peppers. They're always very good sources of vitamin C. The reason that vitamin A is important is this carotenoid helps basically serve as a natural hair conditioner. Vitamin A has been shown to help support longer, thicker, and fuller hair that grows on top of your head, as well as kind of it helps coat all of the skin layers. Vitamin A, some of the best sources are kind of your red and dark green colored vegetables and fruits. So sweet potatoes, carrots, spinach are all good sources of vitamin A. And finally, we'll touch briefly on omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acids are important for basically helping keeping your hair oily and thick and full in appearance so that it doesn't dry out and get flaky and break off and become brittle over time. One of your best sources for the vitamin A, B vitamins, vitamin C, in addition to those dietary things I mentioned, is the cell essentials are a great source of all of those. And this is kind of where I'm going to start into Usana products. That's why you're all here, is to kind of learn about Usana's role in a lot of these different things. And I'll spend most of the time focusing here on a little bit of our skincare products that we offer. So when you're looking at skincare, one of the number one things you want to be looking at is sun protection. So sun is a huge threat to your skin. So you really need to always be practicing safe sun exposure, not just when you're going to the beach, but even day to day. It's important to use here. Well, that's a lot of volume. So you have to eat right to be able to grow new skin as well. The rest of the time we'll spend looking a little bit here at the Celavive skincare products. So Celavive uses kind of a comprehensive approach to skincare. We have sunscreen products. We have products, obviously, that help moisturize in a traditional sense. But we also have skincare products that deliver visible improvements through a number of different methods. And what we're using within the skincare products is the Celavive cell signaling complex, as well as the olive oil botanical blend, and a number of other different components to help in individual ways, depending on the product, deliver beneficial different ingredients and components to your skin. So some of the common ingredients that you'll find within Celavive, the intelligence technology found within Celavive contains 2 bioactive peptides as well as a couple of botanical extracts. So the peptides you're looking at are palmitoyl tripeptide 38 and hexapeptide 48 HCl. These work together to counteract basically aging, lifestyle stress that kind of introduces the fine lines and wrinkles that you might find on your skin. And it does this by targeting a couple of key skin receptors that you would find on kind of those, I mentioned the anatomy of the skin, kind of those deeper layers of the skin, but somewhere between, what you target is your inner body, your skin, you've got that dermis, the hypodermis layers that kind of sit in between. That's a little bit where some of these are targeting. And these ingredients help activate 6 major, help enhance barrier function within the skin. And by barrier function, we're basically talking about what your skin is made for. The skin is there as a barrier for your body to keep harmful chemicals, pollution, other things out, but also keep liquids and moisture and nutrients in. So that's one of the important roles of the skin, and these nutrients help enhance that role of barrier function within the skin. And then finally, olive oil botanical extract is a Usana patented olive oil blend that also includes watermelon, apple, and lentil fruit extracts to help produce moisture within the skin for up to about 24 hours after you use any of these products. And I'll highlight a little bit of these each more here in the following slides. So with age, cell signaling can weaken the skin and start to make it look a little bit less vibrant and dull over time. Some of the things that also produce or cause this and add to this are lifestyle stressors. All these add together and result in a skin that can be looking and appearing premature and really show more age than we might be at, just due to some of our lifestyle choices and things that we go through. And then we also have the natural aging processes in addition to some of these things that add on to it, like I said, like pollution or stressors, just the natural aging process on its own. What happens over time is your skin changes in structure and begins to show some of these fine lines and wrinkles. We get a little bit of sagging from gravity over time, discoloration, uneven texture. And when you combine those couple of ingredients, the palmitoyl tripeptide 38 and the hexapeptide 48, southernwood extract, coffee seed extract, these all combine to target specific cell signaling receptors within the skin. And the cell signaling receptors that they target are specifically ones that we've studied and looked at that help counteract the visible signs of chronological aging, as well as those ones from lifestyle stressors. So southernwood extract is a species of flowering plant from the sunflower family. And coffee extract, these two combine to have a number of antioxidant polyphenols, including chlorogenic acid is one of the ones that we include in there. And all of these work together to create a visible lifting effect that helps promote youthful looking skin and reduce the fine lines and wrinkles on your skin, reduce the appearance of crow's feet, lines across the forehead. So those are some of the things that we do. The way these work, one of the cell signaling processes that specifically we're looking at is tied to what we call DOR, or delta opioid receptor. So these receptors are a key communication hub in your skin, which is why we're targeting these specific ones. The delta opioid receptor specifically helps regulate processes that are vital for maintaining a healthy appearance. It's involved in a number of different skin processes like barrier function, lipid synthesis, as well as overall skin integrity. And when the delta opioid receptors are stressed, it becomes much more difficult to maintain that barrier function, lipid synthesis, and that's one of the things that leads to premature aging. Olive Oil Botanical Blend, specifically, I mentioned it contains that watermelon, apple, and lentil fruit extracts. And we've done some research on this one individual component. And this is where I'm going to kind of segue into a little bit of skincare research that we've been doing. All of it's specific to Celavive, but it'll target a few different individual products and ingredients. I'll walk through one by one here that you might not be familiar with all of these. So specifically for Olive Oil Botanical Blend, we found that it increases moisture retention for about 24 hours after a single application of any product containing the Olive Oil Botanical Blend, which we include this in, I think, almost every one of the Celavive products contain the Olive Oil Botanical Blend. Specifically, we found that in addition to the increased moisture retention, the skin looked visibly smoother. It reduced the appearance of dry or flaky skin. It also increased the appearance of, or decreased the appearance of skin irritation and redness. In 2019, Usana sponsored an unpublished study, so you won't find this anywhere published online or a clinical research study. This was more done for our internal purposes to learn a little bit more about some of these products that we were any impact on them or their results. We were just hiring them to do this study. It was all women in the study, and the women used the Celavive regimen recommended for their skin type, whether it was a dry sensitive skin or oily combination, including the exfoliating scrub and mask we also included in this study for everybody, regardless of their skin type. So significant improvements were seen in both clinical measurements. So we did some clinical measurements as well as their own self-perceived measurements. So we had them actually look at their skin themselves and see how they felt about it. We noticed results in reduced fine lines and wrinkles, diminished look of pigmentation, smoother texture, and increased radiance. Many of the changes were noticeable in about as little as 4 weeks was one of our study visits. But then we also did an additional study visit at 8 weeks, and we found that there were even additional benefits at 8 weeks. So when you're trying to take these products yourself, or you know somebody that might be interested in these Celavive products, they can expect results in about 4 weeks, and they'll continue to get even more benefits beyond that time. Over 80%, what we found is 80% of the people in the oily and combination regimen group and 84% of the people using the dry sensitive group reported having self-perceived benefits and how they liked overall appearance of their skin, including close-up images in the mirror or close-up camera images, they still, all of them thought that, or 80 and 84% thought there was noticeable improvements in their skin. Some of the additional research we've done on individual ingredients. This one here is the Perfecting Toner. And we found that it increased hydration by about 75% in a 30-minute time period. And you see that even 3 hours later, you have increased hydration in the treatment group compared to the control group by using the Perfecting Toner. And that's how a lot of these products work, is by increasing the moisture in your skin, because moisture loss is really the ultimate enemy to the skin. That's what causes the dry, flaky skin, is there's no moisture in there. And so there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can increase moisture. One of them is by adding moisture on top, but the other way is preventing moisture loss. And so that's what a lot of these ingredients, these cell signaling ingredients that we've added, help prevent moisture loss, because it's really easy to add moisture on top of the skin, but it's harder to have the skin keep it in on its own. And so that's some of these ingredients that we've included in these products. Looking at the replenishing night cream, find about 30% decrease in moisture loss, which is what I was just talking about. So it's decreasing the amount of moisture that leaves your skin. The vitalizing serum had double the amount of skin tension. So basically you're looking at elasticity to make sure that it stays tight and it isn't, becoming weak or fragile. And then the hydrating eye essence, which you can see pretty clearly in this image. I like this image here. You can see that after 4 weeks, it's really largely decreased a lot of those fine lines right around the eye of this person. So that's one of the benefits you can have from this hydrating eye essence. And then finally, we'll take a look here at our brightening products. So these are a little bit newer, and you might not be familiar with the research on these. These ones we haven't published as openly. But we do have a lot of great study benefits that we've found from the brightening products. So we selected a few specific active ingredients in these Celavi brightening products that are safe and effective. And what we found is about the same time period, is that in about 4 weeks, you notice the first benefits, with benefits increasing all the way up to 8 weeks and helping reduce the appearance of dark spots, hyperpigmentation, and just increasing. Take a look at how this pigmentation happens in your skin. So if you go out in the sun, we're all familiar with that. Go out in the sun, the sun hits your skin, and over a period of a few days, you get a little bit of a tan or even burning. Suddenly you'll be red that same night. Well, melanin is the pigment made in the top layer of your skin that's the source of your skin color. So what triggers melanin synthesis? Well, the types and amounts of melanin made in your skin can vary, and they're controlled by your genes. So this is why we have different skin tones, different skin colors. Some of us react differently to the sun itself, is because a lot of these are really tightly connected to our genetics and who each one of us are. In addition to our genes, there's outside and inside factors as well. We've got age impacts it, hormones, environmental stressors can even impact how sensitive we are to the sun. And so UV light from the sun generates nitrogen oxide, and free radicals in skin cells. And these activate a melanin cascade that causes hyperpigmentation. A wound to the skin can also cause inflammation, which initiates an inflammatory response generates prostaglandin, interleukin. So you might be familiar with this, whether you've lightly burned your skin before, or an irritation on the skin. It might turn a little bit red and change in color as well. Well, that redness is also just a little bit of blood flow that can increase that, but some of these irritations can cause, more medium-term changes to the coloration and pigmentation of the skin. And recent studies have revealed there's a variety of different sources and inflammatory things that can lead to this pigmentation and activate melanogenesis within the melanocytes. So due to all these different factors, as well as the large role that UV light plays in melanin synthesis. There's a few different things that we can do and different ways we can approach reduction in this coloration of the skin. The very first one is just simply fighting UV light. So you want to apply Celavive day cream or the day lotion or other sunscreen to help reduce simple UV radiation from penetrating the outside layers of your skin and into the dermis. So that's one of the first things you can do. This helps prevent the production of nitrogen oxide, free radicals, interleukin, prostaglandin that I mentioned, all of which turn on melanogenesis, which is that darkening of the skin. The role of brightening products is also to help prevent discoloration when UV rays do slip through. So your first step is using protecting against ultraviolet radiation through a sunscreen, but then your next step could potentially be these Celavive brightening products on the face. So each of these three products contains a very important ingredient called niacinamide. And then they also contain, depending on the product, their own individual ingredients as well. But let's review the brightening mechanism of niacinamide specifically. So on the left is kind of a simplified diagram depicting that melanogenesis, which is that turning on of the melanocytes, which creates that dark pigment within the skin. And on the right, you can see this picture, that very bottom little brown round object that has the color going out from it. That's the melanocyte, which is what adds the color to our skin. So melanin synthesis starts in the melanocyte there. And it starts with a compound called tyrosine, which is converted to dopa that you see on there, which is followed by dopaquinone. So this is that chart on the left again. And then finally, it converts to melanin pigments, which are produced, and this is what causes the darkening of the skin, as well as discoloration and spots that appear after a period of time. However, if you'll notice, this melanin synthesis doesn't start without tyrosine. Tyrosine is the first step. It's also important in that conversion from dopa to dopaquinone, so it never occurs without tyrosine or tyrosinase. And what you'll find is that this niacinamide helps inhibit tyrosine production or tyrosinase production. And then it also helps suppress the melanosomes from releasing melanin pigment. So the melanosomes act like sacs that contain large amounts of melanin pigments. And when these melanosomes become mature, they start releasing the melanin pigments to the upper layers of the epidermis. And so it really helps prevent and slow down that release of melanin to the epidermis. Topical applications of niacinamide, in addition to helping inhibit tyrosine production and inhibiting melanin pigments, also soothe, moisturize, and help balance skin tone. And some of the clinical trials on it have shown that it can reduce discoloration pretty quickly with application just twice a day. And so you're looking at like morning and evening. It can do it in as little as just 1 or 2 weeks, niacinamide. Each of these products, in addition to that niacinamide ingredient, offer a unique formula that will offer a number of different benefits to your individual personal needs. So when used together, you can saturate the skin with a number of different brilliance boosting ingredients, just overall help improve the perception of your skin as far as coloration of it. So looking at it, you'll find, based on our research, that study that I highlighted briefly, and as well as studies we've looked at from other people on these ingredients, you can find that it can improve brightness in about as little as 1 week. And then 4 weeks, you'll notice improvements, and about 8 weeks, you'll notice kind of is where it peaks out on improvements from this process. And so that's what you can expect from these brightening products. And with that, I just hope you'll enjoy all of the Celavive products and you'll get a chance to try most of these out over time. I've got a few minutes for questions if anybody has any questions about the studies that we've highlighted today, or you need me to direct you kind of to some of the more detailed information we have about these studies. I'm free now.
Thank you very much, Austin. I actually received a question from one of our participants. The question is, it's actually pertaining to your discussion earlier about the hair and nail cycle. So the question goes, Austin, since you discussed the hair and nail cycles, is this a preview or foreshadowing of products to be launched for hair and nails?
Not necessarily. I went pretty quick because for those of you who weren't there, Russ Barton this was 2 months ago. He spent a lot of time on some of the nutrition aspects of hair and nails. And that's why I touched on those, as there really are most of what you can do to improve your hair, improve your nails, as far as long-term care, is really tied to nutrition. It's making sure that you're getting enough vitamin C, that you're eating omega-3 fatty acids, whether that's through fish or through a supplement on a daily basis. And so those are some of the best things you can do to overall support your hair, skin, and nails, is just making sure that you're eating a healthy diet on a regular basis. You drink enough water, I mentioned vitamin C several times. That's really one of the most important ingredients. You'll have different carotenoids like vitamin A, lutein, zeaxanthin that we have in Usana's products. So that's some of the things that you'll find that will support the hair, skin, and nails.
Okay, so I think the associates are trying to fish out if there's a new product probably for hair and nails in the making. I think that's what the question is about.
Yeah, maybe at some point in the future, but I can't announce anything officially right now.
So there you go. There's not yet any announcement regarding any products to be launched for hair and nails. Now, going to another question we have. This is a question pertaining to the brightening series. So as there are some products currently in the market that don't allow you to be exposed to the sunlight after usage, how is the brightening series different from these types of products?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with what you're talking about. So some of those products, the problem is some of those ingredients that are in those products, they help improve some of the texture of the skin, but what they do is they dry out the skin, which then makes it more sensitive to sunlight. They're more sensitive to those problems caused by the sun. These don't do that. These don't have any drying effect to create that evenness in skin tone. That's one of the ways you can create an even skin tone, is just drying it all out. But that's not overall the best method always to keeping the health of the skin at its highest. It can temporarily improve the appearance, but for overall long-term skin health, we don't include any ingredients that do that. So these ones, you can apply them, put on your daytime protective cream or any sort of sunscreen and go right out in the sun. You're fine to do that.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So the ingredients that we have in the Usana Celavive Brightening Series you can actually get out in the sunlight, unlike any of the products in the market that can cause dryness of the skin and can therefore make you very susceptible to ultraviolet light radiation once you're exposed to sunlight. So thank you very much for that clarification, Austin. And for the last question this morning, still about the brightening series that you mentioned. So will the usage of the brightening series not harm the skin cells from the UV light as melanin release is hindered?
So melanin is a little bit of one of the body's own defense mechanisms. So it does help protect the skin a little bit, but these aren't, really just the brightening series isn't directly tied to overall protection from the sun. Really, you should just be using a sunscreen on a regular basis. If you're going to be spending any significant amount of time in the sun, really you need to be using a sunscreen to protect it. Skin problems due to the sun are, they're getting more and more common. We have, global climate changes that are making it a little bit warmer. We're spending more time in the sun sometimes when we do go to beaches or
your skin is protected well from the sun's ultraviolet light radiation. So thank you very much, Austin, for answering those questions. And of course, we'd like also to thank all our participants who are who joined us this morning with Austin, who is currently in Salt Lake City. So for us, it's 10 a.m. It's almost 11 in the morning, but for Austin, it's a little bit late at night from his side of the world. So we appreciate your presence here. And of course, we always look forward to these types of training with you and scientists from the home office. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. And of course, I'd like to thank our participants, our 123 participants in Zoom, and those who are also tuning in via Facebook.